With the plethora of AI tools that are in the market today to help you write code, one of them takes the cake on top of everyone else. That is CloudCode. And most people are familiar with CloudCode already, and for good reason. It is a fantastic tool. It is amazing at what it does. And when you're topping on top of that Anthropic's models like Claude 3.5 Sonnet, 4.5 Sonnet, which is the latest one, and 4.5 Opus, especially where there's such a hype about, it stands to reason why it has become the king of all AI assistant coding. It's such a fantastic tool to use in your terminal, and it brings so much power with the LLMs that it is powered by. Now, there are competitors to Claude Code, right? So we have Gemini CLI, we have the OpenAI's one, Codex, I think it was Codex CLI, right? So these are the topmost contenders when it comes to terminal interfaces where you can use AI assistants to help you code. Then you have the other side of things where you have Cursor, you have GitHub Copilot. These are more for the IDE. So those are GUI type. So there are TUIs and then there are GUIs. And for those of you who are not familiar with what these terms are, GUI is a graphical user interface. So that is like when you fire up VS Code or Cursor, that is a GUI. That software that pops up, that is a GUI. Google Chrome, when you use it, that is a GUI. That is a graphical user interface. And then you have TUIs, terminal user interfaces. That's what Claude Code is. That's what Gemini CLI is. That's what OpenAI Codex CLI is. All of these tools which live in the terminal, they are all TUIs because they're in the terminal, but they have a user interface. There are also tools that live in the terminal that don't have a user interface. That's not TUI. That's something else entirely, but we're not going to talk about those. TUI is the topic of today. And there's one particular TUI which actually competes with Claude Code. CLI, Gemini CLI, Codex CLI, they are not as good. I've used them. They are far from offering what Claude Code is able to offer. It is very, very developer focused to what Claude Code is able to do. So what I've been experimenting with, what I've been working with, and I've been loving so far, is something called OpenCode. So this is the website of OpenCode. And right off the bat, you can see that it has a very, very simplistic, minimal design to it. It's very intuitive. It's very clean, right? It's all very text-based. And this is the same philosophy that OpenCode has used for their tool, for their TUI. And I'm loving it. If we go into, if we head over into Docs, which contains the entire documentation of this tool, you can see the same concept follows. It's all text files. This is all Markdown and in the back end. Just plain text, not a lot of formatting, just simple, easy enough, and intuitive to understand. So this is what I've been exploring, and I found this to be super powerful. Up until just a few days ago, this was the most powerful tool, even above Claude Code. People were leaving Claude Code, the Claude Code interface, for the OpenCode interface. That's how amazing this tool was. And this was just built by two random, well, not random, but the two really great software engineers who were just building this as a side project. They didn't have funding. This is an open source, free to use tool that they were building as a side project, and it has blown up. Right? Even more than Claude Code, which is a paid tool, by the way. You have to pay $20 subscription per month to Anthropic to be able to use Claude Code, right? It is paid. It is gated behind a paywall. OpenCode is free to use, but there's a catch because there are two parts to these AI coding assistants. There is the interface that you're going to use it, whether it's the TUI, whether it's the GUI. Then there is the actual LLMs that are being used. Those cost money, right? That's not going to come cheap. It kind of comes cheap. But the way to use these tools is that you have to have an LLM in the background. And there are two ways to pay for them. One is the Anthropic way of paying $20 subscription. Then you can use it up until a certain limit. Or you can connect your API keys, like an OpenAI's API keys, Gemini's API keys, Anthropic's API keys, feed them to OpenCode, for example, and then OpenCode will be able to query those LLMs, those API endpoints, to then give you the outputs, right? But that is charged per token, right? So the input token as well as the output tokens, all of them are charged. If you go to their websites, OpenAI's website, and look at their charges, it doesn't seem that much because it's like fractions of dollars what you're paying. But when you're using these tools extensively, especially on a project to help you build, it does become very, very substantial. That is something then you need to watch out for what the costs are going to be. And that is the primary reason why Claude Code was winning and then OpenCode, and then OpenCode overtook what CloudCode was, CloudCode in terms of its capabilities and in terms of popularity. But now there's a discussion that's going back and forth exactly which tool is best between CloudCode and OpenCode. So let me show you exactly what that looks like, right? Let's go ahead and start using OpenCode. Now, for those of you who haven't downloaded, you can download it for free over here, or you can copy this command, paste it in your terminal, run it, and that will install all the dependencies that you need for OpenCode. Now, the way to run all these tools is that you have to open them up inside of the terminal, but inside a particular project directory. You need to open them inside of a project. They don't just pop up on like standalone like you would on Google Chrome, right? So for that, you need to navigate into a particular project, let's say. Now, I have a project called Deep Research. This is an agentic AI deep research framework that I was working on, right? So this is the project, for example, that I want to open OpenCode inside of. So what I'll do is that I'll right click here and then I'll say open in terminal. So this will open up a terminal window inside of that project repo. So I am now inside of Deep Research. So if I were to hit the ls command, I can see and list all of the files and folders that are within the Deep Research project folder. Okay. And then inside of this, I'm just going to run OpenCode, hit that command, and there you have it. We have OpenCode running inside of the terminal. Now, immediately what I like about this is just the clean, minimalistic interface that you have here. There's not a lot in terms of UI. It's very kind of pixelated in a way, right? So it's not as finely polished as you would expect from a graphical user interface, but in its own way, it looks beautiful just as it is. But that's also the power that it has because it is super lightweight, and therefore it just feels and responses. The way it responds is just, it's a joy to use. So what do we have here right now at the moment, right? You can ask it anything. This is the bar where you can actually start chatting with the LLMs. But then you have this thing where you can see it says build. Now, there are two main modes that you can use OpenCode with, or rather two main agents. OpenCode calls these agents. There is a build agent, which grants OpenCode the ability to work and modify your files, right? So it can actually make changes in your code and the files that you have. Or if I were to hit tab, for example, then I'm in plan mode, or the plan agent, where this is just it's just going to chat with me back and forth. So we have these two agents to work with, and this really separates out functionality in terms of, okay, hey, first let's plan. Now that I'm done planning, okay, now go and execute the code. I'm happy with what we planned before. So I can hit tab to alternate between the two. I really like that. Second, you can see here the exact model that I am using. And now let me introduce you to one of the best things about these TUIs is slash commands. So if I were to hit /, I get a list of all commands that I can use. I can choose to switch agents, look at different connectors, editor, exit, help, blah, blah, blah. What I want to do, this is really cool. I like to change the themes. I like to play around with themes. So right now there's a Nord theme going on right now, and then I can switch between whichever theme I fancy, right? Let's go to Groovebox. I actually quite like Groovebox. Immediately the theme is changed, right? If I want to switch back, go back to themes. Let's go back to Nord. That's what we had before. Back into Nord. So it's super quick and intuitive, and you can see it's immediately changing in real time. Okay, now we can change models as well, because with OpenCode, because it's an open source tool, the point being for open source tool is that you're not limited to a particular tool or provider. So you're free to choose whichever LLM provider you want to use with OpenCode. This is where cost becomes very, very costly, because the way to use an LLM model in OpenCode is that you have to provide an API key for the provider for which model you want to use. So if I want to use GPT-5, for example, I need to go to OpenAI. I need to create an API key. I need to feed that into OpenCode, and that grants me access to the GPT models. But the way that it's costed is OpenAI has this on their platform. The cost of calling their LLMs via the API is, it seems like it's in sense, but when you start working with these models over a long term, you'll see that immediately within a few hours, your costs will be like $2 or $3 already. This is where Anthropic had won in terms of their subscription. It had a $20 per month subscription, but the way that people are using this and the extent to which that they are using this, it really warrants that kind of a price. If you were to use any like OpenCode via an API, for the extent that you would use CloudCode, you would spend double the amount what you would spend on Anthropic on these other APIs. So for $20, what Anthropic is giving you, what that means is that if you were to use the API way of doing things with OpenCode, it'll cost you double that for the same kind of work that you would do. So it'll cost you like $40 as an example. So the API route can get very, very expensive. So what OpenCode was doing is that it was kind of in the back end, they were using your Anthropic subscription, and you can use that in OpenCode, which gives you that $20 subscription on OpenCode. Anthropic has since stopped that. That was such a powerful tool that OpenCode was using. But now that CloudCode has stopped other providers from being able to use their subscription to call LLMs, that's caused a bit of a panic, because now anyone who wants to use OpenCode will be spending significantly more than they would be if they just paid the $20 a CloudCode subscription. So that's a bit of the politics aside. OpenCode does have some free models. You can see that right here. Big Pickle. I've been using this. It's fair. It's really good, especially for some test purposes. We do have Grok as well. Grok Code Fast 1, Minimax M2.1. I don't even know what that is. But there are some free models which you can use. It's pretty neat. But yeah, you'll have to provide an API key for any other LLMs that you want to use, even if it's Anthropic, right? And that's where the cost gets a bit tricky. So let's just prompt this, right? We can ask it anything really. And I've already done one task before. Let me just bring that up. Here we have it. So what I had done is that I just asked OpenCode to explain what this repo is about, explain what my deep research agent is about. And so it's gone and read a bunch of the files inside of this project repo, and it's come back with a repo overview. So this is a full stack Scholar AI assistant that lets users submit a topic and receive an AI generated research report. So it gave a whole backstory of or a whole overview of what it is, and I can continue chatting with it, right? How many Python files do we have? And then it'll just keep going on. Right now we're in plan mode, so it's not going to make any changes to our files, but then we can simply switch to build mode as we like, and that functionality changes. What I really like about this is later down the line, once you get into building your own custom agents that have their own parameters of what they are allowed to do, or the context of what they have, what kind of expertise they have, that's when the usability of OpenCode really transcends everything else. But I love the way that they've built this out. Obviously, I can't go through everything in this one video. I just wanted to introduce it and tell you a little bit about the pricing aspect of things, because that can get very, very tricky. But it's just a joy to use, right? They built it. It's built by developers for developers, right? For enthusiasts. And so this has just been fantastic. So let's open Docs, for example. It'll open up my Docs in my browser. For example, it'll go to my Docs. There's so much to it, right? And I really highly recommend going through the Docs, going through what this TUI is, how to use it. If you're interested in me building a video on how I use OpenCode and what are the best functionalities that I use repeatedly and that actually yield benefits, let me know. I'll try and build a video on that. But yeah, this is it. And this is something that should definitely be on your tool list. Have a look at it. Go through OpenCode, use it for a few days at least, and trust me, you're going to love it.